So let me tell you, there are a number of opportunities. I say opportunities. Cash for individuals as a result of congressional action, and let me tell you what they are. If you make $75,000, $150,000 for married couples or less a year, you will receive a payment of $1,200 with an additional $500 per child, 16 and under. Now, this payment, actually, if you make more than that, the payment decreases as income increases and stops entirely at $99,000. That's $198,000 for married couples. These payments are going to be issued by IRS via direct deposit and will be based upon your 2019 tax returns. If you haven't filed for 2019, it'll be based on your 2018 file.
But I'm going to try to open up the trunk.
If the IRS does not have your bank account information on file, you should submit this information to IRS online, and that's because the payments by check are going to be delayed. The direct deposit checks, cash, will be issued most likely the week of April 13th. The paper checks are going to be issued at a rate of $5 million per week. And so it's going to take about 20 weeks to get those cash payments out. That's going to start in May. So that's going to go through the summer. So again, if you are eligible to get this direct payment from the government, I highly recommend you make sure that IRS has your bank information. If you are on Social Security, you are eligible for the benefits, and you will receive the cash payment the same way you receive your Social Security. So that's one form of help.
Thank you.
And then for many who have had their hours reduced or they've been laid off or furloughed, there is new help through unemployment. Now, I'm going to tell you the good news and the bad news. The good news is, well, let me start with the bad news, because the bad news, which I think our phones are just ringing off the hook, is that people are having a really hard time getting onto the web page for Florida unemployment. Think that we have hundreds of thousands of people trying to get on, and the web page wasn't in very good shape to begin with. So the congressional delegation, including myself and Charlie, who's on the phone, Charlie Crist, we have put a lot of pressure on the governor's office to fix this web page, and really it is only the governor who can fix it. They said they are hiring hundreds of more people and are also allowing people to apply with paper. So my advice is just be patient and be persistent. Now, here is what you will be eligible for. In Florida, the benefits are pretty stingy. It's 12 weeks up to $275 a week, which is pretty pitiful, and we're probably one of the lowest in the country as a result of actions taken by then Governor Scott years ago. So that's part of the bad news. But good news is the federal government, in a bipartisan package, we are supplementing unemployment compensation with an additional $600 a week for 16 weeks. We have also told the states that we will pay them, the states, to give the employees or the workers another 13 weeks of unemployment benefits. So there's quite a few resources that are available to the state now to at least get people, back on their feet and able to pay their rent and buy their food. With that said, we are mindful that the average salary in Florida is about $1,000 a week, and even the Florida benefit not only doesn't pay for that, doesn't even match minimum wage. The next point that I want to make is that the members of Congress, at least some of us, have sent a letter to the governor outlining 5 ways that he can actually improve the system. One, we've asked him to extend the length of Florida's unemployment benefits from 12 to 26 weeks. We've asked him to significantly increase the benefit from $275 a week to comparable states with similar cost of living. We've asked him to make the benefits retroactive, since it's so hard for people to get online. And, of course, we've asked him to please fix that mess of the web page. There are other, I'm sort of talking to myself, Alfonso, so I don't know if there's more questions on this, but people have asked us, are independent contractors, people who are self-employed, eligible for benefits? In the past, they have not been. However, federal government is making everybody eligible. So, yes, if you are self-employed, you may apply.
Thank you, Congresswoman. Deeply appreciate that. Now we're going to pivot to Congressman Crist, who's going to be talking to us tonight about small businesses, not-for-profits, and religious institutions, such as churches. Then after that, we'll get into 3 or 4 questions. Congressman?
Great, Alfonso. Thank you so much. Can you hear me okay?
You sound great.
Great. Well, listen, I want to thank SIU for organizing this call. It gives a great way, and I'm honored to be on with Lois Frankel this evening. It's a great way for us to be able to communicate directly with your folks and have an opportunity to go into some greater depth about what this unprecedented legislation, $2.2 trillion in stimulus, really means to people on the ground, and you're our bosses, so that's the most important thing. So as we face this crisis, calls like this are more important than ever, and they help people like us communicate, and they make resources that are available, presently known to you, and identify the resources we still need to provide going forward. We're not done yet, and we're working on another stimulus bill as we speak, and probably another one thereafter. So stay tuned for hopefully more good news going forward as we get through this difficult time. Workers such as yourselves are truly out on the front lines. You're braving extreme conditions and hazards to make sure that even in this time of crisis, our most essential services do not go dark. And I can't thank you enough for your selfless service and sacrifice. You truly are public servants, maintaining our educational facilities, operating our transportation services, maintaining the phones at city halls, and so much more. You're really doing the Lord's work, and I'm grateful. We all are grateful. Tonight I'll try to address some of the concerns that I think you may have at the outset regarding small businesses. You know, we're all in this together, and we need to help each other. And included in the CARES Act for small businesses specifically is $349 billion. That's billion with a B in Paycheck Protection Program. This program provides forgivable loans for small businesses, the self-employed, nonprofits, and including churches. Qualifying small businesses can use this money to make payroll and to pay rent, mortgages, as well as utilities. These loans will be forgiven after 8 weeks as long as businesses maintain current levels of employment during the crisis we're facing. The idea behind these loans is to give small businesses the money they need to keep people on payroll and their businesses afloat, so that when the economy reopens again and restarts, once we get on the other side of this thing, we can get back to normal as quickly as possible. Businesses interested in these loans should contact traditional lenders like their bank or credit union to learn more about the application process itself, qualifications, as well as restrictions. Some lenders are having trouble implementing the program. However, you can still download your application from www.treasury.gov, so you are ready when your lender is. The new law also provides small business debt relief, where SBA will cover 6 months of payments on your current SBA loan, and you can apply for that at www.sba.gov. And finally, the law provides billions in energy and emergency disaster loans, which includes up to $10,000 advance grant, whether or not you end up qualifying for the disaster loan itself. This program is also available at sba.gov. And finally, a quick plea for patience, and I know this is difficult. Never in the history of the United States has the Congress written and passed a $2.2 trillion package in a mere 2 weeks. And never has the federal government been asked to implement this big of a law in such a short period of time. Meaning the administration, of course. This reflects unprecedented and severe the crisis is that we face. And while I know being asked for patience doesn't help ease your economic difficulty, I also know that folks in the federal, state, and local governments are doing the very best they can during this pandemic, working around the clock to get relief to the American people as quickly as possible. As always, my office is here for you, so please don't hesitate to call us. Our district office here in Florida is 727-318-6770 if you need anything. Now, I have to apologize. I have another commitment, a previous commitment I have to take, but Virginia Poe in our office will stay on the line and attempt to answer your questions, and frankly, she's an expert. And Lois and I are blessed to have great people that we have the privilege to work with on our staff, and one of them, in my case, is Virginia Poe. I want to thank every one of you, and I want to tell you, God bless you all. I know this is a challenging time for our country. It's a challenging time for our people, and something we're going to get through. We're Americans. We're the richest country in the world. We're the richest country in the history of the world. If any country can get through this successfully, it's the United States of America. But we have to be united. We have to be together. We got to throw out, Democrat, Republican, Independent, any labels. We're all Americans. It's like we're at war. We're at war with this disease, and it's an expensive war. But I know with God's help and his blessing, we will get through this successfully. And again, I cannot thank you, Alfonso, and SIU generally, all you wonderful people who do so much for folks throughout this beautiful state that we all love. God bless you, and I look forward to talking to you soon. And thank you, Virginia, for your great work this evening, and you too, Lois. God bless you.
Thank you for your time. So let's actually let's head to questions. We're going to take 3 or 4, and then we're going to move to the financial part of the discussion. So the first question is from Lehman, who's actually one of our executive board members. And his question is, will we be expected to pay back the stimulus check?
Hi, this is Virginia from Congressman Crist's office. No, the stimulus check, you will not have to pay that back. Plain and simple.
Okay. So we'll move to the second.
Alfonso, I muted myself, but you're right. She's correct. No,
okay.
The answer is
I
no.
thought you felt so disrespected by the question. You was like, I ain't even going to answer that. Thank you. So our second question of the night is from Sir Howard at East Compound. What's up, Sir Howard? His question is the $1,200 check only going to come once? Can we expect more?
Well, in the first round, the answer is yes. But as Representative Crist mentioned, we are working on another relief bill, and I expect there will be, in that bill, there's going to be provisions for more direct relief benefits.
So let me ask a cheat question. This is my question. It's actually not on the list, but I think it's actually important. Most of our members are public sector employees. One of the things that happened during the recession 2007 through 2010 is that a lot of public entities who today are considered essential and were essential then would have lost their jobs, but there was pass-through funding that actually came from the federal government as part of the stimulus at the time. I understand that this is somewhat speculative. is it a possibility that if there is a next phase of the stimulus, that part of it could focus on the need to keep public services going throughout the country?
The answer to that is yes. One of our disappointments in the last relief package, which some of us argued pretty vigorously for, but obviously this legislation was bipartisan and there's compromise. But there has to be much more money going back, especially to the local governments.
Thank you. And then our last question for now is from Sherry Cucciella, who's an adjunct professor at Miami-Dade College. Our college seems to have extended the time we are in between semesters, and I'm worried about paying my bills. Can adjuncts get unemployment benefits during the summer period when we are expecting reduced course loads? Before you answer the question, let me give you some little context that you may or may not know. But historically, unemployment in the state of Florida has been excluded to adjuncts because there was, to some extent, a reasonable assurance of continued employment. That's not true, but that is in part why they have not been able to receive it. We've heard mixed things. Our understanding is that adjuncts should be able to receive it, but we wanted to directly ask the question tonight.
Well, thank you. That's a very good question. My understanding is that the new law with the CARES bill, that people who have reduced hours or who are furloughed will be eligible for unemployment. But it's not necessarily anticipatory.
Mm-hmm. I'm actually going to take one more question. I think this is a very good question. This is from Rosa, who works in Palm Beach County School District Transportation. And she wrote, I have heard we might be going back to work in May. How do we make sure that we are all going to be safe driving the kids, which we transport from home to school? How can we be sure that they are going to take every precaution to make sure that we're safe? Some of our buses don't have AC on them, and the front AC doesn't work. What are some things that we should ask for our management and push to make sure that germs aren't spread?
Thank you. Another very good question. And what I would suggest is I think you should always lead with science. So I would recommend that you get advice from a trusted healthcare professional and make your demands based upon that.
Okay. And now we're going to pivot to Sherrod Halliburton. Once again, I'll intro him. So Sherrod is the president of Manatee Federal Credit Union. Sherrod is a community development finance expert. Most people don't know that Manatee Federal Credit Union is actually the credit union of FPSU and our members. When we were looking for a financial institution to work with, we needed an institution that was going to be bold, that was going to build products that was actually going to benefit our members and their community, and also that had a leader at the helm that was going to be willing to take some risk and think outside the box of how to actually build wealth for communities and work with institutions to be able to do so. Sherrod was a person that matched up with that, and he's also an expert of building wealth and getting capital in communities of color. So tonight, welcome, Sherrod. Very happy to have you.
All right. Thank you, Alfonso, for those very kind words. And I want to thank Alfonso and the entire SEIU team for putting on this event. As someone who works in banking, it is so very important that people understand their circumstances. So thank you, Alfonso, for taking the time to put this together. As Alfonso shared, I'm president of Manatee Community Federal Credit Union. But a part of my background is I used to work at the Credit Bureau for 5 years. So that's going to frame my perspective on this situation. We are currently looking at a healthcare crisis that is quickly turning into a financial crisis for most Americans. And so whether you are impacted directly by the health considerations, you will be impacted financially by what is going on today. I want to first start off by talking about it is imperative that we get our arms around our financial circumstances. And the two areas we want to look to first and foremost is our housing and our transportation expenses. So let's take a look at our housing. Do I rent or do I have a mortgage? If I rent, is there a possibility for me to get some relief? I want to say very definitively, do not assume. Do not assume because we have this crisis that you don't have to pay your rent, and choose not to pay your rent and have your landlord respond to you and take some sort of action. There have been mandates at the federal level and state level, perhaps, to landlords not being able to evict a tenant during this time. And that's a good thing. However, your rent is still accruing. So if your income has been disrupted, yeah, the government has mandated that your landlord can't evict you. However, those expenses are still accruing, and at some point, there's going to be a financial reckoning. And so I would say, speak to your landlord. Talk to your landlord about your situation. Make sure that there are no surprises. And if your landlord is, if the property was acquired using federal funds, there is another mandate that they give you certain allowances for, I think it's 6 months. So it's imperative for you to reach out to your landlord, understand the circumstances. So let's say it's a mortgage. If you have a mortgage and that mortgage is a federally backed mortgage, it's an FHA, it's a VA, or USDA, those are government-backed mortgages, and the government has mandated that you are allowed some relief on your payments for a period of time. So if you are fortunate enough to have a government-backed mortgage, you will see some relief. What if you have a traditional mortgage? It's not an FHA. Well, again, it's imperative for you to reach out to your lender. Lenders are aware of the fact that there has been financial disruption for most of their customers. And so there is an anticipation on the part of most lenders that they have to make certain concessions. But it's important for you to reach out and communicate your circumstances to your lender. It's imperative. If you receive a letter from your lender, please read it. It's important for you to understand what your creditor's situation is. If they have certain allowances, they will communicate that in those letters. If you receive an email from your creditor, read it. Those emails in most instances will dictate that particular financial institution's policies around making payments as agreed. If you reach out and negotiate arrangements, that is the best possible situation. Second most significant area you have to protect is your transportation. We all have to get to work, so we need to protect our transportation. Well, there are a number of insurance companies that are affording its customers an opportunity to skip payments. There's been an announcement from Geico, there's been an announcement from Allstate, and there are other insurance companies that are following suit. So reach out to your insurance company. Let them know that your income has been disrupted. Request some sort of deference. And when you do, specifically ask, what does that mean? Does that deference, does that mean that I don't have to pay for a month or two? Is there interest added to that? Do I have a balloon payment at the end of this? When you take advantage of these skip payments and these deference, make sure you understand exactly what you are agreeing to. The same can be said about your auto loan. Most lenders, as I stated before, they understand there's a disruption. Reach out to that lender. Hey, my hours have been cut. I can't make my payment. Do you have any skip a payment opportunities? Are there any deferment opportunities? Lenders are open to working with you, but you have to reach out to them. You have to communicate your circumstances. You cannot assume that they will automatically understand your situation. The next thing is we have to look at what bills are important for us to pay and what expenses can we let go. And so when you look at what bills are important to pay, well, we talked about housing, we talked about transportation, we look at credit cards. Well, it's important to maintain your financial capacity. So if you don't have the funds to pay the credit card, again, talk to the creditor. Same situation. Reach out. Can I skip a payment? All these different things. But you have to communicate with those creditors. Are there any expenses you can do away with? Do you have a gym membership that you just had an automatic? You've been paying on a monthly basis. That's something you might look to cancel. You might enjoy a streaming service in addition to your cable. That is an expense you might want to take a look at and see if that's something you can do away with for a short period of time. So during this financial crisis, it's important for you to focus your attention on all necessary expenses. And it's very important for you to maintain your financial capacity throughout this crisis. Why is that important? I like to share a saying, and that saying is, it's not how much money you have, it's how much money you have access to. And what do I mean by that? During a crisis such as this, it may be challenging for us as individuals to have enough money in the bank to deal with months and months of disrupted income. However, if we've managed our finances well, if we have a solid credit score, if we have a relationship with a financial institution, if we've established those things prior to this crisis, we now have access to funds, and because we've maintained a quality credit score, we have access to those funds at a low cost. We can get through the fact that rent is due on Monday and I don't get money until Friday. So maintaining your financial capacity through this crisis is imperative. It's important for you to understand your credit score. So there are resources out there where you can check your credit score. It's important for you to make all payments as agreed if you can, or get some sort of understanding. And if the situation is just bigger than yourself, there are counseling services out there that can be of assistance. For SEIU members, we at Manatee Community Federal Credit Union is offering up our resources. We have built an online financial education portal. It will give you access to your credit score. It will give you access to an analysis of your personal finances. It will provide you with free financial counseling so that you can understand your personal circumstances. And if the need is dire, we have resources that can negotiate with your creditors on your behalf. So Alfonso and his team has made sure that you will not be alone in this journey. So we welcome the opportunity to be a resource. We welcome the opportunity to provide more information, and we welcome the opportunity to provide access to the resources and capital that you need to navigate this storm. And I just want to thank Alfonso for giving me an opportunity to share that, and I'm available to address any questions that you might have.
Okay, we're going to take a couple of questions. I have a question here. This question is from DJ Shadow. Doesn't say which unit, but this is from DJ Shadow. And DJ said, I contacted my mortgage holder regarding my mortgage. They told me that the best that they could do is hold my payments for 3 months, but then I would owe those 3 months at the end of that 3 months. What should I do? What should I follow up with them and say?
DJ, that is not an unusual position for a financial institution. Financial institutions are trying to work with borrowers from the perspective of giving relief on immediate payments. But a number of those financial institutions have decided that they do not want to forgive all the interest that's being accrued during that period of time. So it's important for you to understand the terms of any forbearance that you enter into. So if you're going to take advantage of this, you need to know exactly what does that mean. Will your interest continue to accrue? How will that interest be expected to be paid out? Will it be a balloon payment at the end of the loan? Will there be additional payments added to the end of the loan? So what they've told you is pretty much industry standard. It's just imperative for you to understand the details so that you know whether it makes sense for you to take them up on their offer.
Okay. And so let me ask you this question, and this is me asking. It's more of a framing question because you're kind of putting your toe in the water, and I think that's great. So if we're talking to our members, and maybe I'm not impacted, but I have a loved one that's impacted, and I'm trying to look at my overall monthly bills, I'm trying to figure out how I get some level of relief, and I'm in this in-between place. Where are the places that I can go to? What should I ask for? How should I approach this overall, like this overall? Where would you, if I was your cousin and you were sitting down with me, you would say, Alfonso, here's where you would start. What would you say?
Well, you have to start by looking at your personal situation, all of your bills, your relationship with all of the lenders that you have. Are you operating with a budget? Now, a number of us have operated without budgets for a significant amount of time. I'm here to tell you, with this financial disruption, I strongly recommend that you get your arms around how much money is coming in and how much money is going out. Until you understand that, it's going to be difficult for you to figure out where you are and what you need to do in moving forward. So understanding your personal situation, making sure there is some semblance of a budget, making sure you understand your credit score, making sure that you are in contact with all of your lenders as frequently as you possibly can is the best advice that I can provide to help you navigate this situation.
Thank you. So we have one question, which is, will the $1,200 stimulus check be counted as taxable income?
This is Lois Frankel. You stumped me on that question.
Okay.
Sorry, this is Josh Cohen. It will not be taxable income.
Okay, I was saved by my chief of staff.
Josh with the save. Thank you, Josh. So let me ask a question. So another question I have, can you explain forbearance, Sherrod?
Forbearance is an agreement that you make with a financial institution that says the payment that's due today, we are making some allowances on when that payment could be made. So, but the devil's in the details with forbearance. So the question that you have to ask is, what happens to the interest during the period that the payment was deferred? That's an important thing. Is the creditor freezing the interest? Meaning that they allow you to skip payments for 6 months, they freeze the interest, your interest is not growing. When the payments begin, you start earnest, you move forward, and you're just paying the principal and interest as you would under normal circumstances. Or is the creditor saying that, yeah, I'm going to allow you not pay for 6 months, but I'm going to still grow the interest. And at some point, you're going to have to pay that interest. So as I stated earlier, the devil's always in the detail. Forbearances are fantastic. However, be clear on what that actually means. And I will caution those individuals who have not experienced a financial disruption against taking a forbearance. It may sound like a worthwhile endeavor. Oh, my auto lender is allowing me to skip payments for 3 months. Well, if there's no disruption in your income, I would question why you would want to do that, because more than likely the interest is still accruing, and those payments will be added to the end of the loan. And if you decide to trade in your car, what you're going to find is that you owe more than what the car is worth. So if your income has not been disrupted, move forward and make your payments. If your income has been disrupted, take advantage of these opportunities. If your income has not been disrupted and you get these additional payments, use those payments you're receiving from the federal government to either pay down revolving debt, or if you don't have credit, perhaps get a secure credit card, a secure line of credit, so you can start establishing credit. The only thing that's going to help you survive during these challenging times is to have access to money.
Okay. We have a question from Michelle, who's an adjunct at Broward College. What's up, Michelle? How are you? Her question is, of the $14 billion that's going to higher ed, how much will go to state colleges like Broward College, and will that go to faculty and staff?
CARES Act provides for almost $14 billion for higher education. This is to support the cost of shifting classes online, for grants to students for food, housing, and technology. Also, student loan payments are going to be deferred till September 20th with no interest accruing. Schools may be awarded additional supplemental educational opportunities grants as funding for the emergency aid to the students for unmet financial needs and expected expenses rise as a result of a qualifying emergency. So I guess the answer to you is I don't know exactly how the $14 billion will be divided up, but between the state colleges and the universities, but there is $14 billion coming back for some support.
Okay. And Congresswoman Frankel, I have a question that is specifically was stated in the question for you. This is from Cassandra, who's I'm assuming is from Royal Palm Beach. What's up, Cassandra? And the question is, are they going to provide food stamps to workers, or are there opportunities for workers to apply for food stamps in addition to the stimulus check?
Okay, let me see if I can figure that out. I may have to phone a friend, Josh Cohn. So let me see what we have on the...
And this is a team effort. So if the young lady from Congressman Crist' office or Josh weigh in, because we're just trying to figure out. And if you don't have an answer, that's great, too, because we can try to figure out where to get it. We want to do these forms as a way to generate questions so we can work through them.
So food stamps is contingent upon your income. As far as I've seen, there's no provision for, like, additional food stamps going to new folks. However, there have been provisions proposed for expanded food stamps, so like more money if you are already receiving food stamps. But like if you lose your job or you go on unemployment or your income decreases significantly, you might fall into the category of someone that qualifies for food stamps. You would just have to check that with the state. I don't recall what the income level is for qualifying for food stamps.
Yeah.
And hey, Alonzo, this is Felicia from Lois Frankel's office. SNAP has been increased by the governor, but for food stamps, he would have to make that order as well. As to our knowledge, he has not done that as yet.
Okay, great.
It does expand the eligibility potentially for food stamps, but again, it's in the early stages.
Okay. So it could get expanded later, but right now we're not sure.
Correct.
Yes.
Thank you. So we'll take a couple more questions. I have one from Keisha Dominic, Palm Beach School District, who's a school office assistant. Since we're still employed and some of us are getting paid, are we eligible to receive the stimulus? Yes, you'll get the $1,200 if you fit into the criteria that was laid out earlier. I'll answer that part. But it says many of us are working in adult education, which we're not getting paid right now. What do we do? We're still technically employed. What do we do?
Well, the law will allow, if your salary is reduced, if your pay is reduced, you are entitled to unemployment. We have what's called the work share program. Yes, you can submit an application.
I have a question here. We're going to take a couple more from Aaron, who's an adjunct professor at USF. If I have to forego certain expenses because I cannot afford food, all of my bills, what are the most important for me to pay in terms of impacting my credit score?
any item that's going to show up on your credit report, big or small, is going to impact your credit. Whether it be your mortgage, whether it be a credit card, whether it be your auto loan, anything that is reporting to a creditor is going to be something that you want to get your arms around. And most instances, the items that are reporting to creditors, the financial institutions are aware of your disruption. They will be open to making some sort of arrangement for you. So if you reach out to your creditors, you should be in decent shape, at least as it relates to having information show up adversely on your credit report.
There is one question. It's a child support question. I'll ask it anyway. This is from, I will withhold the name, but the person wanted to know if people that with child support issues, including arrearment, will they receive the stimulus check, or will it be held back for because of arrears?
I'll try to take that on, and I'll just have to speak to it anecdotally. We had a member who anticipated receiving tax return to catch up on bills and did not receive those funds, and it was determined because they had an arrearage in child support. So I would imagine the same rules will apply for this stimulus.
This is Lois Frankel. I do not know the answer to that question, but we can get it. I don't know. Anybody from my office know?
This is Virginia from Congressman Crist's office. The way I understand it is that, yes, back child support is pretty much the only reason funds from the stimulus would be withheld. Any other sort of IRS judgment or back payment, no, but child support, yes.
Okay. Great. Thank you for asking the question. So I would like to thank you all, Congresswoman Frankel, Congressman Crist, their staffs for taking time out of their very big, busy schedule. Sherrod with Manatee Credit Union to spend some time with our members and answer questions. We deeply appreciate it. This has been unbelievably helpful. Thank you. Thank you. And also to Congresswoman Frankel and to Congressman Crist, thank you for your leadership on this issue. Thank you for not rolling over. Thank you for fighting. We understand that the fight is not done, but we appreciate what you've done so far and how you've been standing up for working people. And with that, I'm going to close the call. Everyone have a good night, and we look forward to talking to you in the future.